Hello again. In this video, I'm going to give you some very simple ideas as to how you and/or your clients can achieve substantial tax savings through some simple reorganisation of assets. Let's look at one of the most common stores of investment value for many more mature investors, ISAs. And remember, we are not investment advisors and therefore have no personal vested interest in the investment aspects of ISAs. But we do have a great interest in the tax consequences of owning large swathes of ISAs. Throughout adult life, ISAs are really great vehicles for investing to save on the HMRC exemption of income and capital gains taxes on one's increasing investments. People may be saving for a house deposit, for children's or grandchildren's school fees, or even just for that retirement nest egg beyond the pension fund. This is so much the case that many investors have personal ISA accounts amounting to several hundreds of thousands of pounds. Many even have accounts totaling £1 million plus. Many such people, aged 70 or thereabouts, will probably have accumulated large holdings because of these alleged tax breaks. But sadly, the income and CGT tax breaks become pretty insignificant around this age, compared with the 40% hit from IHT they will probably suffer when they die. And yes, we all know there is hype surrounding AIM, alternative investment market share ISAs, and business property relief generally. But very few investors are prepared to place large sums into such high-risk investments. So they mainly hold regular ISAs. And to be clear, I don't decry these tax breaks, but most investment advisors suggest they should not be considered a primary means of reducing IHT. Of course, the simplest answer to avoiding IHT is to give surplus assets away and then survive the 7 years until those gifts become IHT free. Although what happens if you ever need those assets? You can, though, turn to that centuries-old strategy used by generations of wealthy people. You can gift funds into a suitable discretionary trust, and this is where way trustees hold a trump card. By this means, you can protect assets outside your estate, thereby having them fall out of account while making sure that you and your loved ones retain the financial security that we all need. Before I tell you more about that, though, let's do some arithmetic on your ISAs. Imagine a chunk of your ISA money amounting to £300,000 continues to grow at, say, 4% per annum. This is how it will progress over the next 15 to 20 years. Of course, we don't know when you might fall off your perch, so here we see the potential IHT at every stage, assuming that when you die, your nil rate band for IHT purposes will be utilised elsewhere on property and other assets. A little sobering, isn't it? Now let's look at that same sum placed into a slightly more expensive discretionary trust growing more slowly at, say, 2.5% per annum. The extra trustee fees are often 1% or less, but let's be conservative and assume a 1.5% reduction on your return. Nowhere near so good. A gross value after 10 years of £384,000 compared with £444,000 in the ISA, a full £60,000 less. But what happens year on year were you to die? If you die within 7 years, your estate would pay IHT on the original gift into trust, but not on any growth. So even during those early years, the IHT bill will be reduced. The net return is still pretty similar to what you might have achieved with higher growth in an ISA, or slightly better, in fact. However, since a 70-year-old has a life expectancy of 15 years, there is every chance you won't die within 7 years, at which point the gift falls out of account. Then the IHT savings leap up, and the net effect starts to look very beneficial. From the 7th year on, the personal trust yields an extra net after-tax benefit of some £100,000 compared with other conventional personal investment routes, as we can see here. If you have a smart fund manager and the two relevant growth rates are somewhat higher, the benefits are even greater. So placing funds into a personal discretionary trust where you have completely conventional investment growth options is a great idea. Let's look at your manager, achieving 4.5% per annum because of trustee fees compared with an ISA earning 6%. As we can see here, at that higher growth rate, the trust route would deliver an extra net after-tax benefit of some £140,000 compared with other conventional personal investment routes. Let's look again at the 4% ISA growth chart, but with full trustee capital gains tax deducted if the assets are realised. Now I'm showing you this because you may recall that the ISA gives protection against capital gains tax, whereas a trust does not. So what is the outcome now for personal trusts? A little reduced, but still far better net returns than the equivalent net ISA value if the inevitable IHT is payable. But please don't worry too much about the whole issue of capital gains, because I don't think there would necessarily be any capital gains tax. And why is that? Because the trustees will probably have used their trustees' annual capital gains allowance along the way. Furthermore, one of the many clever aspects of the way trusts is that the trustees are able to appoint assets out to beneficiaries, applying for holdover relief for any unrealised gains, so that each beneficiary can then use their own annual capital gains allowances to progressively sell those investments themselves and take the gains tax-free. If you'd like to spend more time studying these attractive scenarios, you can, of course, revisit this video and pause on the graphics. Or you can download further detailed information from the Acrobat Trust website. These projections are ours, of course, and are not the prescribed FCA illustration model. But we're not advising on investment strategy, only on the tax repercussions of different models. I think that puts the case very convincingly for placing assets into trust if you're of a certain age, but conveniently, ISA funds are available and can be realised tax-free, so that is a great opportunity to do some focused IHT planning. And I'm deliberately talking about ISAs because most moderately wealthy people do tend to have substantial ISA investments, but haven't managed to mirror that with flexible IHT planning. To understand more about how way trustees have helped some of our clients over the years, please watch our next video, 3 sample real-life cases.